Manitoba stretches across the center of Canada, where long horizons meet freshwater coasts, open prairie, and the edge of the Arctic. Here, cities and wilderness sit close enough to shape the same journeys, and seasonal change defines what visitors come to see. From the streets of Winnipeg to the shores of Lake Winnipeg, travel in this province moves between culture and scale. The land opens quickly. Lakes widen the landscape. Wildlife appears not as a side note, but as part of how the region is known. In Winnipeg, museums, neighborhoods, and riverfronts reflect a city shaped by movement and exchange. Farther out, Lake Country draws attention for its beaches, fishing culture, and summer activity around one of the world's largest freshwater lakes. Some destinations are defined by timing rather than distance. The Narcisse Snake Dens briefly transform farmland each spring, when thousands of snakes surface at once. In the far north, Churchill stands at the meeting point of tundra, boreal forest, and Hudson Bay. This is where Manitoba becomes known globally as the polar bear capital of the world, and where aurora activity often shapes winter travel just as much as wildlife does. Together, these places outline a province where tourism follows geography, climate, and season more than spectacle. What connects them is not a single attraction, but a pattern that becomes clearer the closer each area is observed. Now, let's take a closer look at these places, one by one. Winnipeg is the capital of Manitoba and its largest city, shaped by rivers, rail lines, and long-distance movement across the plains. The Red and Assiniboine rivers meet at the heart of the city, a location that has anchored trade and settlement for generations. Today, this geography still frames how visitors experience Winnipeg, with walkable districts, riverfront paths, and cultural institutions concentrated near the water. Tourism in Winnipeg often centers on history, arts, and everyday urban life rather than landmark spectacle. Museums, galleries, and performance spaces reflect both Indigenous heritage and later waves of migration. Seasonal festivals and public spaces play a key role, especially during warmer months when the city opens outward and outdoor activity becomes part of daily movement. What stands out is how accessible the city feels, serving as a practical base for exploring the rest of the province. As summer approaches, travel patterns begin to shift away from the city toward Manitoba's lake regions. This is when lake country becomes a central part of tourism, driven largely by cottage culture and seasonal outdoor living. Lake Winnipeg, one of the largest freshwater lakes in the world, anchors this movement, with long shorelines that support swimming beaches, marinas, and fishing communities. For many visitors, time here is shaped by the water itself, with days organized around weather, light, and access to the lake. Within this region, Hecla Grindstone Provincial Park stands out as a more defined destination. Located along the western shore of Lake Winnipeg, the park brings together boreal forest, wetlands, and rocky lake edges within a protected landscape. Trails, campgrounds, and lakeside viewpoints make it accessible without feeling overly developed. The nearby Icelandic heritage of the area adds a subtle cultural layer, but the main draw remains the balance between open water, forested terrain, and the slower pace that defines summer travel in Manitoba. the next stop offers a very different kind of experience, one that is defined almost entirely by season and natural behavior rather than scenery or recreation. Each spring, the Narcisse Snake Dens become the site of the largest known gathering of red-sided garter snakes in the world. As temperatures rise after winter, tens of thousands of snakes emerge from underground limestone dens where they have spent the colder months. For a short period, usually lasting only a few weeks, the area becomes unusually active, with snakes clustering and moving across the surface as part of their annual breeding cycle. What makes this phenomenon accessible to visitors is its predictability and scale. Elevated walkways allow people to observe the snakes at close range without disturbing them, turning a normally hidden ecological process into a visible event. There are no enclosures or displays here. The attraction is the behavior itself, unfolding in open fields shaped by geology and climate. Once temperatures stabilize, the snakes disperse, and the landscape returns to a quiet, agricultural setting, leaving the experience entirely dependent on timing rather than place. Riding Mountain National Park marks a clear transition in Manitoba's landscape, where open prairie meets dense forest within a relatively compact area. This meeting of ecosystems gives the park its character, with rolling grasslands giving way to boreal woodland, lakes, and elevated viewpoints. Wildlife sightings are common, and the variety of terrain supports hiking, wildlife observation, and year-round outdoor activity. Its location and road access make it the most approachable national park in the province, often serving as an introduction to Manitoba's broader natural diversity. Moving through the park, the pattern becomes noticeable. The further north the landscape shifts, the more controlled and sheltered it feels, shaped by forests and lakes rather than wide-open plains. Riding Mountain reflects a balance between softness and structure, where tourism infrastructure exists but does not overwhelm the environment. It acts as a natural midpoint, both geographically and visually, between Manitoba's southern ease and the harsher conditions ahead. From here, the contrast sharpens. In the south, nature feels gentler and more familiar, but traveling north, conditions grow more extreme and less predictable. This shift leads into northern Manitoba, where distances expand and seasonal change becomes the dominant factor shaping travel. At the edge of Hudson Bay lies Churchill, a remote town defined by its relationship with wildlife and climate rather than size or development. Churchill is internationally recognized as the polar bear capital of the world, a reputation shaped by geography rather than design. Each fall, polar bears move toward the coast as Hudson Bay freezes, creating one of the most concentrated wildlife viewing opportunities on the planet. The town also sits beneath active auroral zones, making the northern lights a major part of winter tourism. Beluga whales arrive in large numbers during summer, adding another seasonal layer to an already time-specific destination. Tourism here operates within narrow windows, closely tied to natural cycles rather than constant access. Just south of Churchill lies Wapusk National Park, a vast and largely inaccessible protected area. This region represents the true core habitat of polar bears, along with caribou and migratory birds. Unlike other destinations, Wapusk is not designed for tourism. There are no roads or visitor facilities in the traditional sense. Its value lies in conservation rather than experience, serving as a reminder that much of northern Manitoba remains defined by natural systems that exist beyond visitor access. After moving through cities, wilderness, and seasonal landscapes, the final stop adds historical context to Manitoba's tourism story. Lower Fort Garry sits along the Red River north of Winnipeg and stands as one of the best preserved stone fur trade forts in North America. Built in the 19th century, it reflects the early economic systems that shaped settlement in the region. Today, it functions as a quiet historical site, where architecture and setting explain Manitoba's colonial past without relying on large-scale interpretation or spectacle. Taken together, these places outline a province with a clear and consistent identity. Manitoba is often one of Canada's least marketed destinations, yet it may be one of the most defined. Travel here is shaped by geography, season, and distance rather than constant activity. This is not a province built for those seeking dense urban life or fast-paced city tourism. Instead, it suits travelers drawn to open landscapes, wildlife-driven journeys, and environments where timing matters as much as location. If this kind of travel perspective resonates, consider subscribing to Wanderway and liking the video. More destinations and documentary-style explorations are always on the way.